Serious? What job do you have that people might not even know exists? This is a job I had in high school and early college years, but I was a lifeguard response tester. I would go to public pools or lakes with a lifeguard. Then I would drown and see how well they handled the situation. It was fun, except when they would fail, and I had to walk over telling them I was drowning for about 10 minutes. I do video playback in the film industry. Most stock phone and computer software cannot be used on screen during scenes, for various reasons, including copyright, so it's my job to create fake smartphone, tablet, and laptop interfaces for the actors to pretend to interact with during the scenes. One reason to do this is so I can remotely do what the actors are pretending to do, so they can focus on acting while I control the phone computer just off screen. We also do this in order to have total control over the phone. We don't want to see the clock on phones' computers because we may change the time the scene takes place in editing. So when I build the interface from scratch, I remove the clock, carry a name, lock the battery life, etc. Also, if I want the phone to ring or receive a message, it needs to happen at an exact moment according to the script, so this requires more precise control than simply calling or texting the phone would offer. I'll often use the Keynote app on another phone as a remote to cue a phone ring. Another part of my job is to provide content for any TVs that appear on screen, as it is far more expensive to add in-screen content in post-production via visual effects. Back in the day, when we used CRT, big fat heavy TVs, monitors and shot on film, we would have to sync the refresh rate of the TV to the frame rate of the camera in order to avoid those black lines scanning down the screen. You've probably seen it many times in older films. Lastly, I fix actors' phones because I'm the phone guy, so whatever, just give it to me. Okay, here, see, you just had your brightness all the way down. I go into a big vault for the Reserve Bank of NZ and burn money. Every day, thousands of banknotes to phase out the old ones to make way for the new. I do lighting for amusement parks. People generally tell me they never realized you could do that for a living. I remind them that someone has planned the lighting for anywhere you go. I'm a patient safety assistant at a large hospital. I sit for hours at the bedside of patients who pose some sort of threat to themselves. For example, if they're suicidal or have severe dementia. I find and keep track of submarines from an airplane. I attempt to read addresses on mail that machines can't. I organize funerals on behalf of the state for people without any family. I have to search through their homes for any information about them, and I often turn up odd interesting stuff. My so is a horse hairdresser. She drives interstate to horse shows and competitions and plats their hair. You know those fire evacuation maps that are entirely useless because no one's gonna stop and look at a map on their way out of a burning building? Yeah, I designed those. You know how Legoland is full of huge models with millions of bricks? People design, build and glue those by hand, one brick at a time. I'm a model builder for Legoland, and I absolutely love what I do. I was a funeral musician for quite a long time. 6 funerals a week, mainly Catholic services. I made approximately $40k a year just in funeral service fees. Most people I know think I'm joking when I tell them I did that as a job. Basically, I show up at funerals and play and or sing religious service music. I could do it almost without thinking since there are really only 20-25 songs hymns that people want to hear at a funeral. You show them a list of suggestions and they get their service music. Easy peasy. The times where you got an odd request were exciting by comparison. Show up 15 minutes before, leave 10 minutes after, collect your check on the way out. It sounds pretty heartless the way I describe it. Perhaps it is a bit. That sort of mindset is needed, however, to have any shot at being able to do the job. We all developed a bit of gallows humor just to cope with the sadness of comforting mourners on a daily basis. However, you can't really know what it's like to do that job until you are actually doing it. I've sung at a funeral for 4 dead kids and their mother who died trying to protect them in a freak house fire. I showed up to sing one time for the funeral of a 20-year-old who choked to death on a sour ball. The casket was still open. Some regions of the country have open casket calling hours in the church just before the service. Another time, I sang at the funeral of a woman who had just given birth to her second child. Her family members were wailing and throwing themselves at the casket. If you think you know what I mean by wailing, you probably don't know. It's a unique, haunting sound that creeps into my mind at low moments. I call it the best worst job I'll ever have. I work in Legionella risk assessment. My job is to assess the likelihood that Legionella bacteria will grow in a water system. It largely involves explaining how someone's water isn't safe to use, and then I get called horrible things. Most places I go to are schools, hospitals, and care homes. Management teams try to reduce costs whilst making the establishment look nice. Often, one of the first areas cut is maintenance of the water system, because people don't realize just how dangerous it can be to not look after it. Legionellosis can be fatal. I work in the UK, and H&S regulations are pretty strict. The US doesn't have any regulations on Legionella. The company I work for estimated that roughly 1/3 of pneumonia-related deaths in the USA are as a result of a form of Legionellosis. This is because Legionnaires disease is astonishingly similar to forms of pneumonia. The US has one of the highest mortality rates from pneumonia in the developed Western world. If you want to protect yourself, you can take some basic precautions. If you live in an apartment block, find out where your hot water comes from. If you have a storage cylinder in your flat, make sure it is heated to over 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It takes 20 minutes to kill most bacteria at this temperature. If the hot water is stored communally, there isn't much you can do. If you have a combination boiler or instant boiler on your wall somewhere, you should be fine in most instances. Make sure you use all of your taps once a week. This stops water going stagnant in your pipes and prevents bacteria from growing. Make sure you clean your shower heads. This is a big one. Bacteria loves to grow in lime scale and grime. If you're spraying warm water through a dirty shower, you could breathe in lots of bacteria that would love to do some nasty stuff to you. For a while I work night security at specifically abandoned buildings. One of them being a water park kids like to sneak into in the middle of the night. Yes, terrifying people is fun. I'm the one who watches the GPS traces for people on ankle devices. I get to call your PO when you leave or cut your strap. I am a mosquito inspector. I travel to mosquito breeding habitats, look for larvae, then treat accordingly. Also, some adulticiding. I just came off the road as a semi-truck driver and going to be starting as a drive-away driver. Basically, you pick up a semi, school bus, city bus, boom truck, straight truck, coach, ambulance, fire truck, RV, or even just a normal car truck. You pick up the keys, papers, and inspect the vehicle before heading off. You do a daily log like a normal trucker would do, but you don't carry cargo. You basically just drive across the United States and drop the vehicle off, sleep in a hotel for 10 hours and do it again. If you don't feel like working next week, ask dispatch for a vehicle that needs to be near where your house is located. The best part is, you make your own days off, because you are your own boss. Tire tread. A lot of people seem to think old worn out tires just get thrown out. Nope. A good bit will have the tread buffed off and new tread applied. This is especially big with big rig tires. They are super expensive and it is much cheaper to retread them. I work as an activities director at an Alzheimer's unit. A lot of places just let their residents sit in their rooms and wait to die. But at my place of work, we do tons of stuff like set up concerts, host church and wine tastings. It's the most fun, rewarding job I've had. I'm a culinary producer on food TV shows, which basically means we handle all the food aspects of the program. If talent puts a chicken in the oven, cameras can't wait an hour, so my team swaps out the chicken for an already cooked piping hot one. Or we choose all the secret ingredients on competition shows, build those massive pantries and help hosts and judges seem more food knowledgeable. I work for an international marine salvage company on a 200 feet tugboat in the Bering Sea. We do emergency tows and response when ships have issues. Basically it's like AAA on the ocean. I think my job is well known, but maybe people don't quite comprehend it. I make costumes for movies. Seems normal, but I had a lady from accounts. We all work on the same studio lot. Come to the costume department looking for a safety pin, and she was so taken aback by us sitting at sewing machines, and was greatly impressed to hear that we could, indeed, Make clothing. Like, where do you think the clothes on screen come from? H&M. When I would tell people I worked for a real estate company, they always assumed I was a realtor. Nope, my job was a product of the housing crash. And now that the housing crisis has gotten a bit better, this kind of work has dried up. Every morning I would get a list of houses going to trustee sale that day. My job was to drive to each house, determine whether it was occupied or vacant, then write a report on the condition of the house, noting all that would need to be repaired before we could flip the house. If it was vacant, I would have to find a way inside. I pretty quickly learned to pick locks, made my job much easier. After I finished the list, I would drive to the auction and buy the houses the company wanted. Normally they would send me out with between $800,000 $500,000 all in cashier checks written to me that I would sign over to a third party. Was fun at times, but knowing each house belonged to someone who had been fricked over in their life was really depressing. I started the first football team in China. American football. Full gear. Tackle. Now there are over 70 teams. I run a non-profit organization that helps the development of that sport. Not sure if that constitutes as a job though. I am a manatee biologist. A good portion of my job is recovering carcasses and performing necropsies to determine cause of death. People are often confused when they see me dragging a dead manatee up a boat ramp to load it into my truck. I also get to assist with rescues of sick or injured manatees, so I'm not totally surrounded by death. When my co-workers and I talk shop in social settings, we definitely get weird stares. Some days it's hard to believe that I get paid to do this work. I was a tissue recovery specialist. Basically, when people die, you don't just take their important organs. You take cornea, bones, ligaments, ribs, heart valves and even blood vessels. All of this is done by a group of 5 to 6 people that come in a few hours after death. Prep the body, cut them open, take everything out, stuff and place plastic bones in there to replace what we took. Even plastic hips. Then sew up the body with a fine stick. I've sewn the flesh of human dead. I am a board certified nuclear pharmacist. I compound sterile preparations, IV medications, called radiopharmaceuticals for use in diagnostic imaging procedures and patient therapies at area hospitals and clinics. Microfinance consultant. Yes, I spend most of my time in developing countries. I'm an IT guy at a Buddhist retreat center. I develop tablets, the ones you swallow. It's an odd job, but someone has to do it. I used to be a food taster. I worked for a multi-brand, global company, and my job was to eat the R&D food all day. Best bit was, in between 8 solid hours of eating whatever food we were tasting that day, we used to get a lunch break. I work with developmentally disabled adults. Remember the kids with special needs in high school and stuff? Ever wonder what they do when they graduate? Basically, I work at a school YMCA clubhouse. One guy I work with loves playing board and card games. It's not uncommon for me to play 6 or 7 games of war in a day. One guy likes listening to music and reading magazines. There are people who go out in the community and do community service and stuff. It's a crazy job, both fun and frustrating. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I am a red team penetration tester. I am hired by companies to break into their buildings and steal all of their data, then write reports about how much their OPSEC sucks donkey dong. I usually wear a janitor hat, carry a broom and wear some fake ass badge, and bam, I am in their building walking straight to a server room with my flash drives to take all the things. It's a fun job that kinda just fell into my lap. Park planner. I plan parks. I sell used airplane parts. Because all types of airplanes fly all over the world, you can't keep spare parts all over the place. And because most of the commercial operators have hundreds of planes, they don't always have the spare part they need available anyway. A whole industry exists that fills the gap. We buy airplanes that are 10 to 20 years old on average and park them at an aircraft graveyard. Then, using our experience and other resources, we start pulling off parts that we know or believe to be in demand or highly valuable. Those parts have to go to a shop approved by the OEM to be inspected, tested, repaired or completely overhauled. They're then recertified with an airworthiness certificate and put on the shelf to be stored until there's a need. Sometimes the need comes from the nearest airport at 2 AM and, no matter what, People are always in a hurry. Every moment a plane can't fly is a moment it's not making money. I audit flight attendants. Basically I get paid to fly around and watch TV and movies and look up every few minutes to make sure they are doing their job. All the sitting sucks but it pays well and is easy as heck. I recently quit working for a company that supplies interpreters for mainly hospitals, so for any non-English speaking or deaf patients that were attending doctor's appointments. I certainly didn't know such a thing existed before I started working there. You know how in movies you'll see a nice tracking shot and it's super smooth? It's someone's job to set that crap up and push the thing. Also trying to hide lights and cables and reflectors and crap is also a job people do. Guitar transcriber. I buy and sell Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I make around 1-2k a week depending if there are any events. I do the rigging and flying of performers in Cirque du Soleil shows. I make teeth. I fabricate dental prosthetics, crowns, bridges, veneers, etc. I investigate computer crime. Yes, we can find most, if not all your deleted files, even if you clear the recycle bin. If I get a hold of your computer, I can pretty much track everything you've ever done on it to some degree. Please stop using your work computer to look at P. Incognito mode won't help you. Biological environmental bat consultant. I work for my dad's company. I look for and find bats. Community health worker. I go to people's homes and help them with the things they can't do for themselves. It ranges from total care, i.e. bedridden, to helping with medicines they need, making meals, and just making sure that they are okay. This helps them to live in their own homes rather than having to go into a facility, nursing home. I currently teach English to corporate employees in non-English speaking countries. It's so much better than teaching kids, and the pay and hours are better. You have spotted this beautiful tasty sea of bacon. You can have as much as you want as long as you subscribe in the next 22 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.